I'm Jason Leigh. We're in Paris at the Champs-Élysées Film Festival. This is France 24.
Dubbed the queen of 90s film noir with single white female in Shortcuts, Jason Leigh won an Oscar nomination for her role in Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. She's just made a movie with Matthew McConaughey called White Boy Rick, and she's in TV series Patrick Melrose with Benedict Cumberbatch. Jason Leigh, we're sitting here in this beautiful garden. We can see two mega Parisian monuments. Have you got a favourite monument in Paris?
Oh, I mean, these are my two, favorites, and I love the, I'm gonna probably mispronounce this, but the Tuileries, the gardens.
I was reading an article earlier today in the Irish Times that was talking about gender flipping after Ocean's 8, and it was suggested in the article that you and Viola Davis take on an all-female remake of The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, that's hilarious.
What do you think about gender flipping of films?
I think it's, it's possible all the time. It just depends on the role, A lot of times the director will decide, oh, I think I would like this character to be played by a woman or to be played by a man. We just did that on White Boy Rick. It was Yann Dimanche movie I made, and the character was originally written for a man, but he thought it'd be interesting. She's the FBI, and it's about dealing with an informant. He's a very young boy. If it played by a woman, because then there's a more maternal aspect, at least from the boy's point of view, to trust her, because he's a boy without, his mother's not in his life. So it's all, it's very subtle. It's not really hit on that hard, but it was just something in the back of his mind that he thought that would be an interesting.
Let me see him.
He was extremely ill.
You have to tell me where he was, what he was doing.
It was his decision to go in. It's something they termed the shimmer. We've sent in drones and teams of people, but nothing comes back.
One of your recent films, Annihilation, is also a mainly female cast. What's it like, and how is it different being on set with mainly women?
It was great. It was really, really fun. I mean, it was a really nice group of women, and we had such a good time, and it was a really lovely energy to be around, and they're a really talented group.
Is it different to being on set with mainly men?
I don't know the answer to that. I always think it depends on the individual, really.
The status quo is changing in Hollywood after Me Too and the fall of Harvey Weinstein. Tell us about your experience over recent years.
I mean, I think it's great that the status quo is changing, and I think it's a long time coming, and I think it is something that affects every profession. And especially like in America, we have to look at our president first. 16 women already, So I think it's something serious, and it's something that's being now confronted in a very serious way, and I think huge changes are happening, and it's great.
There's also been a lot of talk about the lack of interesting female roles for women over 40, especially in Hollywood. You've had some brilliant roles, though, in the past few years. You voiced a key character in Annihilation that won awards and broke hearts. You also starred as Daisy in Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. Before that, things were a bit quieter for you. What do you think happened?
Well, I had a baby, and I did some plays, and so that sort of always takes you out of Hollywood for a little bit, and then it's hard when you leave for a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to get back in. So I'm lucky that Tarantino thought of me, and I auditioned for that, and I'm so lucky that I got that movie. It was very life-changing.
What was it like working with Quentin Tarantino?
Oh, phenomenal experience. I really want all my friends to work with him. He makes it such a delight, and he makes you kind of fall in love with acting again, and being on a set again, everything becomes kind of magical and surreal, and so much fun. And he works with the same people over and over again, so it's really a feeling of being in this family, and everybody works so hard and they care so much because he does. And he just appreciates every effort from everyone, and he demands the best of everyone, and everyone gives the most they have to give. And so you really feel like you're a part of something and you're all working towards the same goal, and you really want to deliver for him.
And since then, you've done a number of television series as well, Atypical, the revived Twin Peaks, and most recently, Patrick Melrose. You play his mum, Eleanor.
The secret is not to interfere.
Education should be something of which a child can later say, if I survived that, I can survive anything.
Well, let's just see.
Not the best mum in the world.
No, but she tries hard. I mean, she's also like, talk about a victim of her times, you know? She's badly abused. She's in a marriage that's incredibly abusive, and she can't even fathom that the abuse is happening to their child.
Of course he was. A difficult man, even then. But I thought I could turn to him. And the idea of turning to him now, of being alone in the same room with him.
She's in so much denial. She's drinking to the point of like knocking herself out at night, barely awake in the day. And all the love that she asked for her child, she has to sort of do in secret because she's terrified of the father. And in those days, you couldn't just take your child and leave because you'd be accused of kidnapping.
How do you get inside the head of a character like that?
Well, the novels are so well written. I mean, honestly, I could just read, you know, Edward St. Aubyn's, like, the words on the page over and over again, and they tell you, you know, what she's doing with her hands, the bile in her mouth, the fact that she's already thrown up twice, and it's, you know, morning, she just woke up. You know, she throws up before she brushes her teeth, she throws up after she brushes her teeth. The booze on her breath, the way she swallows the pills, the way she, like, rubs her legs, the way she waves her hands, like, all the thoughts running through your head. So you have so much to draw on. It's incredible.
I wanted to talk a bit about your preparation for roles, because you're famous for doing so much research for your roles. I think when you played a blind girl in Eyes of a Stranger, you worked on your braille. In Single White Female, you plastered your dressing room with pictures of your co-star. And before playing a phone sex operator in Shortcuts, you actually spent some time in some phone sex offices. Looking back over your career, what's the most memorable or the most challenging thing you've had to do to prepare for a role?
I mean, I guess having to learn to play the guitar, that was not easy for me, but Quentin thought I could do it, and he had like a guitar teacher there on set for me all the time, and we just worked constantly over and over again. Because I've never touched a guitar before in my life, so that was hard.
Are you still playing now?
No, but I mean, I haven't played in a while. Actually, my sister was just over the other day, and we were playing. So it was really lovely. He gave me a guitar as my wrap gift, one of the antique guitars, so that was really lovely, and I love it so much.
And you're often described as the queen of 90s film noir because of Single White Female, Shortcuts, and Georgia, where you played a drug-addicted rocker who was overshadowed by her sister. That film was written by your mum. You were the star. Your sister actually worked on it as well. How much of your own lives did you draw on for that film?
Well, it's very much inspired by my older sister's life, because she struggled with drugs her whole life, and you know, she was always sort of living out on the edge and like running into the same walls over and over again, but with such a kind of raw innocence and passion. So I would just sort of stand in awe of her, but she was always such a warm and loving person. Coming up with that story and having my mother write that story was, even though it's a lot is drawn from my older sister Carrie, but it's not actually Carrie. It was a way for me to try to like understand her in a way that I had never been able to growing up. I always loved her very much, but always saw like how hard her life was and how she kept making it harder, you know, all the time. So I was trying to like somehow figure that out, that puzzle out, you know. It seems so beyond understanding at times.
So how do you decide on your roles then? Because they're often very gritty. You haven't done very many romantic comedies. They're often very dark deep roles?
I think I like to do things that are really far away from me, because it's more challenging and it's also fun, you know, to do things that you wouldn't want in your own life. Like it's not. I don't really like drama from my own life. I like my life to be pretty peaceful and relaxed. But I do like dramatic roles, and I mean, I'd like to do more comedies. Sure, I would. But at the same time, there is something that's psychologically compelling to me about playing the women that I've played.
And what's next for you now, Jennifer?
I don't know. Summer. So I'm looking forward to it.
And what does Jennifer Jason Leigh do on her summer holidays?
I take my son on little holidays. It's really fun.
Okay. Jennifer, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The secret is not to interfere.
My family is fragile.
Everything is Sam this and autism that. Maybe it's time for you to have your own life.
We can camp here tonight. It's destroying everything.